My name is Claudia Russell, and this is my reflection over chapters 6, 7, and 9. So, in chapter 6, started off with picking your topic. Picking why you, why them, and why now. Kind of helping you develop your standpoint. So, your standpoint is your experiences, your knowledge, your values, and your identities, and how that can fit your audience and your audience's contexts, values, and opinions and attitudes. This is a rich source for your speech topic when you can find something that fits your audience but also fits your context. Sometimes something might not fit your audience and it might fit your context, or it might fit your context, or it might fit your audience but not your context. So it's very important to do your research and to figure out why. Once you figure out your standpoint, you're going to brainstorm your topic. Now, brainstorming looks a little different for everybody, and you can do it in so many various ways. I brainstorm just by writing everything that comes to mind down on a sheet of paper. Just let your imagination run wild, because there's nothing wrong when it's brainstorming phase, because you're just coming up with ideas. Now, this can be by yourself, or I often brainstorm with friends, because sometimes having more than one opinion helps a lot. So once you have your topic, you're going to move from topic to your purpose. So you're going to be identifying what the purpose of your speech is. So there's 3 main types, and you have informing. This is informing your general purpose, and you're teaching your audience something. You're informing them, you're giving them information. The next is persuading. In persuading, your goal is to convince your audience to change their existing value or opinion that they already have. And last is connecting. Now, you always want to connect with your audience in your speech, but there are some specific speeches like weddings, funerals, award ceremonies, where your whole purpose is to connect with your audience. From this, you can pinpoint your specific purpose, and then you can craft your thesis statement. Your thesis statement summarizes your main idea in one sentence. Now, what I found most interesting in this chapter, but is also what I have as my application, is having both a what and a why in your thesis statement. So what are you doing? What are you teaching them? What are you saying? And why are you doing this? Why are you teaching them? This is something that I didn't do in my introduction speech, and so I really want to take it and apply it to my next few speeches. Chapter 7, you move from having your thesis statement to the evidence to support your thesis statement. So there's a few different ways that you can help support your thesis statement. One of those is demonstrations, so showing your audience something. I have actually done a demonstration in one of my speeches before. I've done a few. One of my favorites was I built a Jenga tower, and the Jenga tower represented our life and how we're naturally prideful people. And so I would take a Jenga block and move it to the top of the tower and just say statements of pride in our life until the tower got so tall that it fell over. And so I was demonstrating how pride can ruin our life. The next is testimonies. So this is stories, real life encounters, things that you have dealt with that you can share your personal experiences with. That's something that people can connect with. Lastly is statistics. Now, I've never done statistics in a speech before, but people often trust real statistical data. And so it's something that I think I'm going to try and might be able to capture your audience a little bit more. So we have 3 ways to link your evidence to your thesis statement from that, and which first starts with principles. So you're going to state your principles, then apply the principles, and then draw the conclusion. So this way of linking evidence to your thesis starts with a principle and then applies it to your case. But with examples, you're going to start at the case, then arrive at the principle. So they're kind of opposite of each other, but you're going to describe the example, extend the example, and then draw it into a conclusion. Last is analogies. So this is comparing case to case. And so you're going to describe your known case and then how those principles and those like what you found in that case applies to another case. So kind of the next thing that I found interesting was reasoning with your audience. So often your audience reasoning is based on their previous beliefs that they already have, that they already hold. And oftentimes as humans, we don't want to change our beliefs. We don't want to change our opinions. What we think is right, even when sometimes we realize is wrong. So I really enjoyed this section of just different ways to reason with your audience. And what I kind of want to take away is, does my evidence fit with my audience's values? So I don't want to be sharing evidence with my audience that they don't care about. So that all goes back to the context, your audience, their values, their beliefs, their attitudes. So lastly is chapter 9, and this was the organizational and outline chapter. And honestly, it might be one of my favorites because this is also what I have some of the most experience with. So once you have crafted all your evidence and you've gathered your evidence and reasoning, you're going to then sort it into groups. And from there, you can begin to identify your main points of your speech. Kind of once you have your main points, you can list your subpoints from that evidence and that reasoning that you have gathered. Now, what I thought was really interesting was the chapter is talking about no more than 5 points. We often think that 3 points is kind of like the perfect number, but it was talking about how like 7 is that average number that people remember. And oftentimes no more than 9 or 5 is kind of that range. I've only ever done 3 or 4 points in a message, and those messages are about 25 minutes long, 25 to 30. But like if you're doing a 2-minute speech, you can't really fit 5 to 7 points in there. So after you have your main points, you want to make sure that your main points are distinct from each other and that they're not overlapping or that they don't have practically the same information, because then it just kind of gets pretty repetitive and your audience will get unengaged very easily. So the thing that I found most interesting was the 5 patterns that you can set up your speech. So the first was categorical pattern. This is organizing your main points into generally recognized types, groups, or sets. So like species of giraffes is one, kind of things that are already grouped together, or you can do it yourself. Next is spatial. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. But this is according to your position in space or location. So this could be like 3 different countries, cities, locations, or not locations, buildings. So kind of like locations of things. Next is chronological. So chronological is probably like the most that people think of, because that's most of the time past, present, future. Or alphabetical, things like that. Very distinct moments in time. Next is the causal pattern. So this one's pretty simple, cause and effect. What's the cause and what's the effect that comes from that? Lastly is motivational. So also very similar. It's what's the problem, what's the solution? And those are kind of your main points. Lastly, the things that I kind of want to apply in my speeches going forward is picking one of these patterns and sticking to it throughout the whole thing. I think sometimes I can just like kind of put my main points, but they aren't really grouped up into anything. But also giving signposts. So signposts is telling your audience where they are in their speech. Whenever I speak at my youth group, I always say at the beginning, now I'm going to have 3 points. And then I make it very distinct. This is point 1, this is point 2, this is point 3. And then when I move into cueing the ending, I typically always say, I'm going to invite the band forward, because a band plays at the end. Or in conclusion to wrapping up my speech, what I want you to take away. Kind of cueing that ending so that they know it's coming and it's not just an abrupt stop. But that is what I found interesting, what I learned, and what I'm going to apply from chapters 6, 7, and 9. Thank you so much.